Hi, my name is Rico Canero, and I'm the author of a book called Rescuing Virgins, a Guide to Virgin Islands Sports Collectible. Having been born in St. Thomas, the United States Virgin Islands, I was surrounded by sports. I had the former Major League Baseball pitcher Alvin McBean living right down the street from me. I used to remember playing softball with former Governor Cyril King. Even used to play Little League Baseball against Elrod Hendricks's kids. So sports was something surrounding me at all times. Even my father, who was very involved in the boxing and the horse racing, as well as the cockfighting community. And so sports was a big part of my life growing up. What I also learned is that as I would meet different people and talk to them about, different sports stories and stuff like that, everyone was really excited to tell about heroes that they had when they were growing up and different people that they played with. And a lot of these stories were incredible. But what I also noticed that there was no real collection of these stories anywhere. There wasn't a Sports Hall of Fame. There were no sports statues honoring any former athletes or anything like that. So I took this as an opportunity to write a book and collect the stories. So I call it Rescuing Virgins because I wanted to rescue these stories so that they wouldn't be lost forever. And one of the first stories is the fact that most people don't realize that a Major League Baseball game was actually played in St. Thomas at one point. The New York Yankees with Mickey Mantle played against the Boston Red Sox with Carly Yastrzemski. So some of the all-time great players played in that game. People like Valmy Thomas, Horace Clarke, Elmo Plaskett really participated in helping to bring that game to the Virgin Islands. It was an incredible opportunity for people to gather in St. Thomas at the Lionel Roberts Stadium and watch that event take place. Even the naming of the stadium, Lionel Roberts. Most people don't realize that Lionel Roberts was actually a great cricket player. They may know him as a member of the municipal council or maybe even as a musician, but they don't realize that him and his brother were some of the greatest cricket players that the Virgin Islands ever had. Some of the other great stories from Virgin Islands history, a gentleman named Cosgavern, and he was actually one of the founders of Negro League Baseball. Another great character from Virgin Islands history, Alfonso Piggy Garrard. And he was a great baseball player. He was the only person from the Virgin Islands to play in the Negro Leagues. And there's a story also of when Branch Rickey was planning on trying to break the color barrier. He was looking for the right black player to actually do so. And they said that Alfonso Gerard was on the short list. He ended up, Branch Rickey ended up picking Jackie Robinson as that first person. Now, as far as other sports are concerned, other than baseball, we have people like Linville Joseph. He was the first person from the Virgin Islands to win a Super Bowl ring. Actually, Jeff Faulkner was the first person to play in an NFL game from the Virgin Islands, but Linville Joseph was the first one to actually win a Super Bowl. Now, we have another, everyone knows about Tim Duncan, of course, the great basketball player, but are you familiar with Butch Lee? Okay, Butch Lee is a great individual in that he was actually a member of the 1980 Los Angeles Lakers championship basketball team. So he's here in the background. You have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you have Magic Johnson, Cooper, all the big names from the Lakers past. And he was one of the people, like I said, to help them win the championship in 1980. Funny enough, in 1979, the year before, Magic Johnson won the college championship with Ron Charles at Michigan State. The first player from the Virgin Islands to be in basketball was Charles Claxton. And some people may be familiar with his son, Nick Claxton, who plays today with the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets. So some other characters, I mentioned Ron Charles. There's a picture of him there with Michigan State where he won the championship with Magic Johnson. A couple of the great basketball players. Individual Leon Trimmingham actually played overseas, spent many years in Australia, and he was actually known as the Australian Michael Jordan. Then there's Kevin Teagan or Shepard. His story was actually made into a movie called The Iran Job. It's a story about an American basketball player from the Virgin Islands that went to play basketball in Iran. It turned out to be a great documentary. If you get a chance, check it out. Like I said, it's called The Iran Job. A number of other interesting individuals. Levi Bow. Most people never heard that name. Well, part of it is that he was a great basketball player, but he came along at a time when blacks were not allowed to play in the NBA. So he went where he could play, which was in Switzerland. And he actually won 18 championships with his team in Switzerland. So outstanding story there. So moving on to another sport, horse racing. Julio Felix. He has won over 3,000 races and seems to be on track to possibly make it into the Jockey Hall of Fame for being an incredible rider, winning millions of dollars in purse prizes. Another sport that Virgin Islands tend to dominate in is boxing. Peter Jackson. He was actually born in St. Croix in the Danish West Indies, and in the 1800s moved to Australia. He became a bare knuckles boxing fighter, went on to become the Australian champion and then the European champion, and was well on his way to becoming the world champion. But at the time, the American white boxer Sullivan refused to fight a black person, so he was never given the opportunity to fight for that particular championship. But most critics agree that if he had had the opportunity to fight him, he probably would have won. Another interesting story in the world of boxing, Sugar Ray Seales. This is an individual that won a gold medal in the Olympics, then went on to fight Marvin Hagler, actually like in 3 different fights. What's interesting about his story is that he had his eye damaged in one of his fights, but continued to be a fighter, and he won something like 5 of his last 6 fights while being legally blind. So incredible story about him and his persistence to, succeed at all costs. Have an interesting picture here. Julian Jackson. Most people know of him in Virgin Islands. Here's a gentleman, Mr. Felmin Canero, my dad, and here's Julian when he was like 15 years old. I remember he used to come over to our house for dinner all the time, and I can remember Don King calling our house, trying to get him to sign with him right before he actually signed with Mike Tyson. Great guy, Jason Langolier. He's an MMA fighter here in the Houston, Texas area. So just another sport in which Virgin Islands athletes are dominating in. Here's an individual named Megan Hodge from the Virgin Islands. And she is, well, not currently, but she was one of the top-ranked volleyball players in the world. She won a gold medal in the Olympics. She won a number of FIBA volleyball championships. Just a great player. In the world of WNBA, we have Tajama Abraham, who had a great playing career and then went on to become a basketball coach. As I say, just a number of individuals in just multitude of sports. Share with you another one here, Daryl Homer, a young man from St. Thomas who went on to become a fencer. At one point, he was the 2nd highest ranked fencer in the world. And he's won, I think, a silver medal and a bronze medal in the Olympics so far. And last person I'm going to show you, Ann Abernathy. They call her Grandma Luge. She's an individual that she contracted cancer or got cancer and went through all the treatments and stuff like that. And as part of her recovering, she wanted to stay physically fit and stuff like that. So she took up luge and competed it to the point where she qualified to participate in the Winter Olympics. One of the oldest athletes, but undetermined, she remade herself and became one of the top athletes in her sport. She's now currently changing sports to become an archer. So here's a person that just refused to let medical conditions, age, life determine what's going to be next for her. She's determining on her own terms. With that being said, these are some of the great stories of Virgin Islanders. Rescuing Virgins, a guide to Virgin Islands sports collectibles. Please check it out. I'm sure you won't be disappointed.